give you examples when comments about, okay, some, it used to be like what I should do about my looks. And it's cool, let me be honest with you. I had a woman who told me that, and I am who I am. I take no credit for my looks. I've had people say to me, if you gain weight, you'll never be successful. I had a woman last week, let me say this goes for men and women, that made comments about how I'm not attractive, and it just wasn't nice. I deleted, blocked it because I'm about women, empowering women.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Too many comments about my chest. Too many men asking me to send nude photos, which is beyond inappropriate. It is just beyond inappropriate. I just had one a week ago. Asked me, I'm like, really? Go on.
Do you want to hear something horrifying about that?
Yeah.
So, a website was set up in the UK for people to anonymously leave their stories about sexual abuse in school. And the website's called Everyone's Invited. And the people remain anonymous and they reveal their stories. And the young lady that formed this site was featured on BBC Breakfast News on one Monday. By the following Monday, they'd had over 10,000 submitted sexual abuse cases in school. On the BBC News website a week or 2 weeks ago, it said that girls, so typically maybe primary children don't have smartphones, but secondary children certainly do. Girls are getting asked 10 or 11 times a night for nude pictures at 12.
Unbelievable.
And so this issue, what is it?
What
Greg?
is it?
Yeah, Greg. I mean,
Well, and this is where I think, technology is always a blessing and a curse, depending on how it's being used, right?
Right? You just
And as a parent, I am very concerned with, and my wife and I are very careful with what our kids have access to, what they're watching, who they're interacting with, and constantly tell them that there's people out there who pretend to be your friend or pretend to be this and that, and they're absolutely lying. They're not who they say they are. And so, and I think this is a great message to any parent who has a kid who has access to a phone or has their own phone, is that they should make sure the kid knows that this is what we're going to do anyway. Our kid didn't have a phone yet, but when he does, at night, that phone will be on the charger in our bedroom. It won't be looking at it at night. And secondly, you have no expectation of privacy. We're going to look into things and see what's being said back and forth and making sure people aren't harassing you and doing some terrible things or asking things that are inappropriate. May seem an invasion of your privacy. I understand that, but we're doing it because we love you and protect you. And this stuff is real and it needs to be addressed and understood.
it's very interesting also because very sadly, there are not so many, it's an absolute horror, but there are enough stories of teenage girls killing themselves
Mhm.
because of the pain of the torment, the inability to escape that torment, and the feeling there's nowhere to turn, and that is all because of the attachment to the device. So yeah, it's a difficult one.
It is, and what's going on in social media. A few years ago, it was almost epidemic. It was like a couple of kids suicided, and then all of a sudden, other children wanted to do the same thing. And there was a lot of middle schoolers and some high schoolers that took their own lives in a short period of time. That was really scary. Thankfully, it's that kind of slowed down, and people have taken a lot of steps to make sure that kind of thing doesn't happen again. But those things are real, and for young minds who don't understand that it's not the end of the world, it certainly feels that way. And when you can't escape it, that they look at the only way they can escape.
Yeah, which is terribly sad. Sorry, Rachel, you look like you wanted to add.
Well, there are ways that you can keep yourself safe on social media. And there are ways. I teach my network this all the time in Tips for Success. You know, I talked about how I had somebody Google my home. Well, okay, my home has cameras on it, so I mean, and that was some people, my friends who were influenced or contact were like, "What? You know, people are doing this." I'm like, "Yes, they are." You know, so there are ways that you can protect yourself. About a month ago, I had to take down my after years of having it up and having no problems. I had to take down my phone number and my email off my profile. Why? You can imagine. I started getting like weird texts, and then I said, "Okay, it's time. This needs to come down. If they want to get a hold of me, they can do it. They
Yeah.
do a direct message, and then I can decide whether or not they get my phone number or not." So there's ways that you can protect yourself. There's things that you can do, and it really comes down to this: you better have boundaries. You better have a thick skin, and you better have boundaries. I'm very clear on that. I've had people cross them. You know, I had a guy randomly think it was okay to hit the FaceTime button. I'm like, "Sarah," I'm like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Do I know you?" He's like, "Oh, you know, I'm so and so." And I'm like, "This is not okay. This is not what you do. You just don't turn on the phone and go, okay, I have complete access to you."
Mm.
So it's gonna tell my network all the time, build boundaries now. And if you don't create them, you can't expect people to understand what they are. So be strong about those boundaries and say, "This is what it is," and create them. And that's
So